If you're struggling with the step overs, this video might be for you.
For me?
Right, welcome back to the training ground. And in this video, we're going to be covering a couple of topics about the step overs. We're going to cover how to do it correctly. And number two, we'll give you different types of variations for different situations. And lastly, watch the whole video. Why wouldn't you? As we know, as we're coaching, a lot of mistakes we see with the step overs is it looks wonky. The reason is this. A lot of times when we see a player, especially the young players who are introduced newly to this move, I think I can break it down into 2 points, which is number one, the placement of your starting point. Okay, we can break it down into number 1 and 2 and 3 points. And second, it's the lack of commitment. So the first one is going to be the placement. A lot of times what we see is the left foot. So if we're going to our left over with the right foot, a lot of times what we can see is the left foot going here on the left side of the ball and behind. So because our plant foot goes here, when we go over, it just doesn't look like anything. It just doesn't do anything, does it?
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Simply put, this placement must be on the opposite side. So you're basically, if you're standing behind the ball, you're gonna be coming over to where your right foot is. So essentially your body's going across, and then you go over, and then with the follow through. So again, my placement goes here and there, right? Again, place and over. Again, step over together. Now the second thing is going to be, can you from here, instead of going 1 and 2 slowly, can you go a little faster where you're landing almost together, right? So the sound or the rhythm should be like that. So step over, there, and then from this position, we can normally take the ball with the outside. And same thing, if we're going to the other side, make sure this right foot comes across, and then we go over together. Yeah. Little important detail here is going to be, can you turn your hips facing sideways, right? So from here, if I'm facing straight, can we then face sideways and then take it here? So we don't want to be committing where our hips are still facing forward, because this doesn't exactly move the defender when my shoulders and the hips are facing forward. Right. So the detail is going to be from here, placement of the foot, and the hips facing the sideways. Around. Can you give that a go?
Yeah.
Okay, the last thing, little detail that I just noticed was when we're going over the ball, a lot of times it's very low, so it's like you're just walking over it. Instead, can you give a little bounce? You're bouncing off that plant foot to come here. So that's gonna make it look more dynamic. Instead of that, it can make it look a little more dynamic.
A little hop step in
exactly. There. That's it, yeah, much better. Bounce off it, yeah, that's it, much better. Can you go one more time, bouncing off your left foot, off your plant foot? That's it, yeah. Okay, perfect. Right, Ben, so that was a very simple and short tutorial, okay? But give us a little conclusion on what we just covered.
Yeah, so the first thing is that plant foot, the starting position of our plant foot. So can we start a little wide of the ball here? That's gonna give me some leverage so I can really get my foot around the ball here.
That's it. How about after you plant that right foot, what do you do then with your left foot that was planted here? What do you do with that?
Well, afterwards it's all about speed, right? How can I sell the move? So rather than just pull my foot around and then step, I wanna add a little hop to it to really sell that.
Okay, so when you ended, you were facing over there.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do we want to face there, the sideways, instead of facing the defender? Say if I was here and you're doing the move against me, why do you not want to face me?
Well, I'm trying to sell you that I'm going that way, right? So if I just step over and then I'm still facing you, you're still going to be faced up towards me. I've done the move for nothing, right? So the more I can really get my hips around, now I'm really selling that. Even if I just get you for a half second to step that way, now I can turn and I'm out the other way.
That's correct. That's a great point. So actually, those are great points. Now, we just talked about our plant foot going on the opposite side of the ball. So we can go here. That's the most effective way, I would say. But there's at least 2 more least effective ways, I would say. The least effective would obviously be if the ball is on the same side of where you're trying to go. because then this simply minimizes the movement that you can create, and it just simply isn't dynamic enough. However, in the game when the situation might be a little bit too tense, too tight, too quick, yes, this can be just enough to create that half a second of space for you. But ideally speaking, we want to be on the opposite side.
Right.
So the next least effective one would obviously be the plant foot. Yep, that's it. Plant foot right behind the ball. That'll give us a little more range of motion to be a little bit more dynamic for our hips to face the sideways, and the same with the shoulders. So that could be a useful one as well. Again, depending on the situation. One advice I will try and tell everyone is, can you find what works for you best from 3 different placements? And ideally, it's going to be here. That's going to be the most effective one. But again, how much time do you have to actually afford that execution?
Think, like you said, the situation obviously matters a lot as well. Like if there's a defender right here, I'm not going to want to step,
of course,
and leave the ball exposed. So maybe I'm not trying to sell him anything. I'm just using this to protect the ball.
That's it.
But the more comfortable you can get with kind of all the different variations, then when you're in that situation, you're going to be comfortable jumping right into it.
And the second point we're going to cover is the lack of commitment. So that's the shoulders being very stiff, along with the dynamic over movement. What we tend to see, especially when you're introduced to the skill fairly new or fairly early, is the lack of shoulder movement. So it seems very stiff and it just doesn't do much. So what we want to see instead is forget the ball, have it exposed when you are making that move, right? So again, if my plant foot goes on the opposite side and making that hop to go over, yes, that ball is going to be exposed, but I'm also ready for the second touch, right? My next movement. We know that ball is going to be exposed, risk that you have to take. So instead of just going here and having to worry about ball not being exposed, can you actually be committing all the way to shift the defender? If that's your goal, you've got to commit. So when you land, can you not be stiff? Can you be low? So that way you can be ready for the next movement a little bit earlier.
Yeah. I think another big thing, and we talked about kind of looking weird or maybe looking a little choppy, is the timing of it, right?
That's it.
So when you go over, your hips and shoulders are turning as you go over. What I see a lot, maybe I step over and then I'm turning, or I start to turn before I've even pulled my foot. So the more fluid you can make it, of course, like one motion to turn.
So big thing, commitment, and making it look more fluid to make the defender move. Again, our objective is to move the defender, and if that's the objective, you've got to be fully committing to whatever your execution is going to be, and in this case, a step over. Make sure you fully commit. So now let's talk about some variations depending on the situations. So the first thing we're going to cover, if the defender is in front of me. Okay, so we're going to cover 3 variations with the defenders in front of us. So the first one is going to be dead easy, simple, plain step over, and then we're going to go with the outside. Okay, so there. Right, the second thing is going to be from step over, we rewind and then go with the opposite outside. Okay, so the last one is going to be step over, taking a step back, and then croqueta to behind and forward.
So the next one we'll do a little bit different here. This one is all about protecting the ball. So I'm going to take a little bit different angle to approach it, because on this I'm trying to turn more like a 180 rather than just trying to beat Frank. So you'll notice my plant foot's looking a little different than when Frank was doing it to beat me. The biggest thing here is I want to get to the opposite side of the ball. So it's almost like I'm just running over the ball. So you'll see my plant foot stays a lot wider here, because when I step over it, I want to be able to use this leg to protect the ball from Frank so that I can turn out. And then the other situation where I can really use this variation is if I'm running with the defender to the side of me, maybe a little bit behind me. Same thing, I want to keep my plant foot wide of the ball so that I can protect the ball from Frank. And then I'm just trying to shift my weight to get him to step forward so now I can turn out.
And this is especially useful because the defender's first mentality is to defend goal side, so protecting that space. And by Ben shifting, or us shifting that movement here, or body weight here, that's going to force the defender to be a little bit more aggressive in returning into the space, and that's going to give us half a space to turn back around safely. Right, so next variations are going to be how to get away from the defender utilizing a step over when the defender is directly behind us. The key thing here is going to be a negative touch to create a little bit of separation to make sure that we can effectively utilize the technique. Now, the second thing is going to be, we talked about this, the commitment. We need to commit to one side to make sure we can shift the defender perfectly and then go out the other way. If the defender does not shift by me not executing it perfectly, then when I turn, the defender will have a better chance to recover to defend me yet again. Right, so the defenders are getting ever so smart. So we need to come up with different variations or different exits in this case. So this technique is going to be a step over, and we're gonna pretend to go there, but instead I'll be putting my foot on top of the ball and actually roll it even wider. Right, so defender, if he's not stupid or she's not stupid, she shouldn't be or he shouldn't be getting full with the same technique twice. So we're gonna come up with a different exit plan. So this plan is going to be a step over, reverse, so rewind, and then I'll be pulling the ball back to face the defender, and hopefully I can get away with that one touch of me rolling the ball. And if the defender's still tight, then maybe after I take the second touch, I can either throw a scissors or I can add the croqueta, which is what we did just before. So this technique works because after I do my step over, the rewind will help me to place my right foot here, which then all I need to do is from here is take that little half a step with my left to turn that little half a step here and then roll towards me, and then I can get out. Okay, so the last variation when the defender's behind is a little excessive, but we're gonna do 1, 2, and 3 to get out. So the goal is for me to just shuffle as much as I can with 100% commitment and hoping I can throw the defender off. That's going to create a little half a space for me to just turn. The little important thing here is going to be when I'm doing this, can I get a glance where the defender might be? And when you feel that defender is shifting to where you want him to go or her to go, that's when I turn. All right, so I wasn't gonna do this, was not in the plan, but I'll give you one more variation before we get out of the video. So 1v1 situation, I'm going up against the defender. It's going to be roll, step over, and out. Yeah. So because this skill takes quite a few moves, right? Quite a few steps. So you just might want to keep that distance a little bit more than you normally would, right? So there, and I can get out. The theory behind this is I'm already rolling the ball slightly diagonally to where I want to go. And from here, when I take that initial step after the roll, my body's already ready. Look at my plant foot, look where it is. And here, 100% commitment, and then I can take the extra outside touch to get out, or sometimes, if you have just rolled it hard enough, you just might not need that outside touch because that ball's moving. But what's moving the defender? It's my commitment, 100% commitment. So let's just run it one more time.
So Frank, I noticed in a lot of the situations we went through in this, stuff where maybe a defender's behind me, something I noticed with a lot of kids is just struggling when the defender's not in their line of sight, right? With where the defender is and how to make a decision in those situations. Is that something you can maybe help break down for us?
100%. Well, we call that scanning. And without scanning, without collecting the information, you cannot be making the decisions. So how do we do that?
You guys are gonna have to watch the next video for that one.